All right, guys, we're getting started here. We're going to kind of roll into the presentation. And for those on my team who are reminding me to hit record, I can assure you we're recording. So very good. Monday morning. Hey, everybody. This is Jeff Phillips with Accountingfly. I can't believe it is the fall. I can't believe it's already the 8th Meet the Firms Week. We have hundreds of students and recent grads who have registered for the event. We've got a great group who are here on Monday morning. If you're not live, you'll get to check it out on recording after. We'll get the recordings out daily to everybody. If you've never participated in Meet the Firms Week, it's the largest career conference for accounting undergrads and recent grads in the profession. Here's the plan for the week. You want to attend live if you can, because you get to ask our awesome presenters questions, and you get links and offers live through the event. You're going to be coached. You're going to have your perspectives changed. I can assure you of that. You're going to hear from leaders like our friend Joey Havens here, from Matt Banks, the controller of Facebook, and many others this week who are going to challenge what you think about your career in a good way. Also, what else is available? Apply to jobs on accountingfly.com. There are hundreds of entry-level positions available, and you can check those out. Two, we're going to have a school fair on Thursday. I'm going to tell you about that in a second. And support the sponsors that make this event possible. Sponsors like Xero, sponsors like Gleim CPA. We're going to tell you about those in a minute. Why do we do this? We believe that we want our community members to have fulfilling careers, and part of that is getting education. And part of that is understanding your options, and so that's why we do Meet the Firms Week. If you have a thriving career, you can use Accountingfly to find jobs throughout your entire career. You can get content from Going Concern, and throughout your entire career, and that's why we're in this business. So let's talk about Thursday. Thursday afternoon, I'll tell you what, we believe in the importance of getting a master's degree. It can help you get the required hours to sit for the CPA exam, and it can be the key for opening doors for employment opportunities. To help you learn about your education options, we are hosting a free virtual school fair this Thursday from 1 to 3 Eastern time. All right, that's 12 to 2 Central time, etc. At the school fair, you can chat online with several of our partner schools. These are Masters of Accounting, Masters of Finance, MBA. They're going to be ready to answer your questions. We're going to post the link, I think we already have, in the chat window. So please register for that event, just to find out especially what you should be doing around the education, your future education options. If you can't make the school fair on Thursday, no big deal. We can still connect you with schools that interest you. We're going to put a second link here that in your go-to webinar control panel that is to our Masters Finder, where you can see school profiles, and you can click on Connect with Schools to select the ones you want to hear from. All right? So that's a couple of housekeeping items. One other thing I want to bring up is to thank our sponsors. Meet the Firms Week doesn't happen without sponsors. Two very special sponsors. The first is Gleim CPA Review. They've been doing CPA prep for 40 years, put one of the first books on the market, and have helped millions pass the CPA exam over the years. Their CPA Mega Test Bank is the largest on the market. And this is a really cool offer just for Meet the Firms Week members. You can get free access to 4 complete CPA exam topics. Just visit the page we just sent you through the link to get started, and that's gleim.com/AFdemo. So Meet the Firms Week is all about your career, your future, your options, and we're going to kick it off right. I can't imagine a better way to actually get started than what we're going to be doing today. Principles for success and the ABCs to outstanding. So Joey Havens over here. Joey, you've been waiting patiently while I get through some of the housekeeping items. How are you this morning?
Doing great, Jeff. It's great to be here. My pleasure.
Thank you, Joey. Joey's a CPA. He's the executive partner at HORNE LLP. If you don't know, HORNE is a top 50 United States accounting firm, widely recognized as having one of the strongest firm cultures in the profession. And that's a large part to Joey and their team making an intentional effort to make a great place to work, and they are really a very big, iconic firm in our profession, doing it right with how to train, how to lead, how to coach people. Joey's a sought-after coach, mentor, and leader, and his personal mission in life is to help others realize their full potential. Today, Joey's going to coach you on principles for success with ABCs to outstanding. Small things that if you do them daily, that will separate the outstanding from the average. So I want you guys to start Meet the Firms Week right now with a willingness to learn and to be challenged in your career. If you have questions, fire them off in your go-to webinar control panel. Just hit question, and I'm going to ask them. I'll interrupt Joey or save some to the end as well. Also, Joey and his team have some polling questions for you that you're going to be able to access through your phone. So get your phone out or some device, because we're going to be sending you to a website in just a second on your phone where you can log in to answer some polling questions in real time. This is going to be a lot of fun. Joey, I'm really glad that you're here. Glad that you're a partner, and we're grateful for you and Cassie and Katie and the team at Horn in Mississippi. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I'll be in and out through questions and answers, but Joey, the floor is yours, and thanks again.
Oh, thank you so much, and Jeff, thank you for those kind words, and good morning, everybody. I'd like to start off with a question. I know it's Monday morning, I know it's early, but who wants to be outstanding? Think about it. We all want to be known as being outstanding. We certainly want to be outstanding in our careers. So, think about it another way. Do you get excited when someone runs over to you and says, hey, you're average? Oh, you're typical. Or even that was pretty good. I'm going to bet that doesn't really ring your bell. So what I'm going to share with you today are some little things that are the difference between being average and being outstanding. It's the difference between good and great, being typical and excellent. The truth here is that we all have enough talent. We have the smarts, the education. The fact that you signed in today tells me a lot about, hey, this is somebody that wants to know how to reach their full potential. And that's what this morning's conversation is going to be about. So kudos to you already for getting Monday morning started off with a way to learn more about how to reach your full potential. Now, here's a little secret before we get started. Everything we talk about today is going to be really, really easy to do. It is. So why aren't more people outstanding, right? How come everybody you're associated with is not outstanding? It's because everything we're going to talk about today is really easy not to do. That's right. And actually, holding ourselves accountable, building good daily habits, is our second biggest obstacle, as John Maxwell tells us, who is one of the leaders in renowned leadership. He says the single most biggest obstacle is not believing in ourselves, that we don't really realize what our full potential is. So I really want you to think about that this morning as we go through that. Believing in yourself and being willing to hold yourself accountable to some of the things that we'll talk about enough today. So Jeff mentioned to you that we're going to be very interactive Monday morning. I already know everybody's got a phone in their hand, right? So all we got to do is go to horn.cnf.io, and I really encourage you to participate. You'll see a list of presentations there. Go down to ABCs to Outstanding and select that, and you'll be in. And we're going to start this morning off with a polling question in just a moment. And I encourage you to participate, because when everybody participates, it makes everybody better. We'll be able to see those results right on your screen. So as we go along, we'll see how everybody else is answering. And again, your answer and how you answer the question is anonymous, so don't worry about that. So as we talk about these three simple concepts, and they are simple, I want you to really think about how you are managing yourself. How are you managing yourself around these three concepts? Because today is, and the difference in being average and outstanding is being able to manage yourself. So the A stands for attitude. attitude. And we all have an attitude, right? And it's contagious. So one of the questions, the polling questions I want to ask you, if you've logged into horne.cnf.io, is have you ever given control of your attitude to someone else? I'll give you just a second to respond to that. Have you ever given control of your attitude to someone else? I'm going to take a little bit longer on this first one because I know some people are still pulling up that site and answering. So as we can see, about 72% of us, somewhere about that, said yes, we have. The truth is, we all have given our attitude away at some time. We've let somebody trigger us and put us on the wrong course. My wife and I are building a new house right now, and I can promise you it's about 8 weeks late, and I have lost my control of my attitude. I have let the builder have it from time to time. And so I have got to grab that back, and that's what we want to talk about today. Dr. Martin Seligman is one of the renowned authorities on positive attitude, the benefits of that, and happiness. He's demonstrated over years and years and years of research that people with a positive attitude, if you have a positive attitude, it's a better indicator of your success than your IQ or your education. Positive people live longer. They have better relationships, better marriages. They have less heart attacks. They have better careers, and generally they earn more money. So this is a big deal. So tip number one today is maintain control of your attitude. Think about this lady right here, Bonnie St. John. I had the pleasure of spending time with Bonnie about 2 years ago. We were having lunch around a table with about 7 other people, and I learned about her story. That's her at the Olympics in 1984, where she won one silver medal and 2 bronze medals at the Paralympics. Now I want you to tell you, she spends her time now going around delivering positive messages and the power of a positive attitude. Bonnie St. John came from a broken home. At the age of 5, they had to remove her leg above her right knee. She was sexually abused. And yet she had an aspiration of being a downhill skier without a right leg. And she found a way to ski school in Vermont. She obtained Olympic fame. And today she delivers a very positive message. And she told me a story about after one of the presentations she had given, a mother came up afterwards, and she obviously had with her what was obvious to Bonnie was a very disabled child. And the mother looked at her, pleading in her eyes, and said, "Bonnie, I just loved your message, but how can we ever have a normal life?" And Bonnie thought for a minute. It kind of set her back on her heels. And then she reflected and she said, "You know, never ever aim that low. You can have an extraordinary life. You can have an outstanding life." Which brings me to this man right here, John O'Leary, who's a personal friend of mine. I heard him speak in March, and then we had him at our leadership conference in Dallas this year. John, at the age of 9, in the basement of his home, lit a can of gasoline. It blew up the family home, blew him up, burned 100% of the skin off of his body. John was laying in that hospital room with less than 1% chance to live. He could hear the doctors telling his parents that he had no chance, and yet he survived. He endured. He persevered. He had to relearn. He had all his fingers amputated. He had to relearn how to walk, to write, to feed himself. He gives life-giving lessons today about living an inspired life. He's taken tragedy and turned it into triumph. He's married. He's got kids. Just a tremendous keynote speaker. He's got a blog out there called johnolearyinspires.com. I would encourage you to follow that as he gives inspiration every day. This morning he was talking about his 4-year-old sitting in his lap, and she was tracing the scars on his body because he's scarred all over his body. and she found one on his right arm, and it was shaped like a heart. And she said, "Daddy, this is the most beautiful scar of all, and it's so pretty." And that was his message today, and his tweet was, "There's beauty in everything." So what's beautiful in your life today? Have you really thought about that? So that brings us to our next polling question. I want you to stop a moment, and I want you to reflect on, excuse me, I'm going to go back up. I got ahead of myself. I want you to reflect on 3 things that you're thankful for. What are 3 beautiful things in your life today? I'm going to give you just a second to do that. 3 things ought to come to mind very, very quickly. I made a note of 3 things this morning. So if you'll write those down, it's really special, but certainly run them through in your mind. And now I'll bring that polling question back up. Do you feel when you do something like that and you reflect on some of your blessings, do you get a boost of energy? Do you feel a little inspired? Does it make your day a little bit better? Because that's tip number 2. Make a daily list of 3 things that you are thankful for. I promise you, if you do this every day, you'll have brighter days, better days. Your self-confidence will be better. You're going to have an outstanding career because you're going to be looking on the positive side of things. I noticed the Harvard Business Review released a study not long ago that happiness and people that find happiness in life is tied to people who are grateful. So if you do this for 21 days, it'll become a habit. It'll become a habit that I don't believe you'll ever let go of. And in fact, this is a post on LinkedIn by Kaya Graves. I was teaching this course in Nashville, Tennessee this year to a group of seniors from 9 universities across the country. And this young lady, Kaya Graves, attended from Southern University in Baton Rouge. And then she posted this on where she had for 21 days thought about 3 things that she was grateful for. She had started her day like that and talked about the impact that it had on her life. I want you to know we offered that young lady a job over the internet. And she is now coming to work for HORNE in September 2017. And we couldn't be more excited because we know she understands what it takes to be outstanding. So gratitude is a difference maker. So let's stop a minute. Let's move away from ourselves. And I want you to think about your best friend or the person you spend the most time with. And I want you to think about their attitude. And here's your polling question for you. What best describes your best friend? Do we have does it provide options on there? Okay, here they are. Depressed, constant complainer, victim, is their sweet spot, always wonders what will go wrong. Are they laid back, kind of who cares? They look for something good to happen. Are they always very positive? Or is their attitude magnetic, where a lot of people want to be around them?
Hey, Joey, while the answers are coming in, I just wanted to ask, do you see are you able to see the polling results? Because we can see them on your slide. I just want to make sure. This is Jeff. Thanks.
Yes, we can see them. I can see them coming in.
Great.
And so it looks like a lot of us are hanging around very positive people. And that is tip number 3, is hang with positive people, because it is contagious. It is contagious. Your attitude is contagious and their attitude is contagious. So really be careful about who you select as your friends and who you spend time with. All right, so let's go back to ourselves. Let's think about ourselves again. We all have what I call our anchors. An anchor is a person, a situation, a feeling that we allow to sink our attitude, to take us negative. It seems kind of almost automatic. I know at one time in our firm, I had a partner in one of our offices that every time I got around that partner, I went negative. I could never do anything right. I could never satisfy him. And it became my anchor. I would get mad about that. But I've learned to control that. I've learned to influence it. I've learned to let it go. And we all have anchors. So what I'd like for you to do is stop a minute this morning, because this is something we don't do. We get really busy. Even with signing in for a conference like this, we get really busy, and we don't stop and reflect enough. So I want you to stop and reflect. You know what? What is my anchor? What is something that turns me negative really quickly? It can be a person, a professor, a parent, a classmate, a certain task. It can be road rage. You know, I can't stand that person that gets in the left lane and will not let you around where you can pass. It can be voicemail, feedback. For my wife, CC we call her, it's her hair. When her hair gets messy, it's not going to be a good day at my house. What is your anchor? Think about that a moment. What turns you negative? So it's important that we know those anchors, because that's tip number 4. Know your anchor. Realize whether you control it or can you influence it, or accept it and release it. Don't let it get control of your attitude. It's so easy for our anchors to get control of our attitude. That's when we're at our weakest, when that anchor is in front of us. Now the next tip, I kind of told a little bitty fib when I said everything I tell you today will be easy to do. This next one's a little harder. Are any of you worriers? Do you worry a lot? Would you describe yourself as a worrier? I want you to think, in fact, let's find out what people worry about. Let's just, the thing you find yourself worrying about the most, just enter those and let's see what people are worried about. We all have those: money, time, family, our future, money, money, money. You know, it's an interesting thing I found in my career, that when I focus on being outstanding, all of those financial things, the money and everything else, take care of themselves, especially if I lead with an attitude of gratitude. Passing my classes, my family, future, success, other people's feedback. So here's another polling question. I thank you all for sharing that today, because you can see we have a lot of things in common. We all worry about some of those things. How much of what we worry about actually happens? 4%, 8%, 12%, 23%, 40%, or everything? I see somebody's already said everything I worry about happens. How much really actually occurs? Well, the truth of the matter is, over time, only about 8% of what you worry about. So about 25% of us got it right today. But that's a real small percentage of all of that energy we're spending on worrying. So tip number 5 is let go of those worrisome thoughts. Easier said than done. So I'm going to give you a little tip around this tip. When you are worrying about something, if you will stop and write it down, and write down why you're worrying about it. What's the worst thing that can happen? How can you control it? How can you influence it? How can you let it go? Now, that's not easy. It takes a lot of self-discipline to do that. But it will help you understand when worrying is zapping you of your energy and your positive attitude. If you'll get in the habit of doing that, when you know something's on your mind, you're worried about it, it will help you break that habit of worrying. More positive energy when we don't do that. So tip number 6 is develop a can-do attitude. Think back about your friend Have you got a friend that says, hey, we can do that, I can do it, I got it? It's a great feeling at work when a team member says, Joey, don't worry about that, I got it, I can do this. That demonstrates passion and self-confidence. People will flock to you. It'll definitely demonstrate outstanding versus average. A can-do attitude will bring joy to you and those around you. It has a multiplier effect. So when you help others, it prepares you to do more and to grab the next opportunity, and having a can-do attitude is part of that, because you need to teach others what you're doing so you can, again, continue to grow. You always want to teach others what you're doing so you can continue to move forward. Now, ladies, I have a special tip for you around this, because it has been shown over and over again scientifically, males seem to be wired to take more risks than females. They'll walk out on that plank in a moment when they're not ready, they're not prepared. And as females, sometimes we're more hesitant to do that. So I want to encourage you to raise that hand quicker, to really think about how can I get a can-do attitude, especially as you enter your career. How can I also be on the front line saying, I can do this? Believe in yourself. Go back to that first quote we started this morning with, where John Maxwell said, our biggest obstacle is not believing in ourselves. So let's sum up those quick 6 tips for attitude, because attitude is going to determine how far we go. Tip number 1, maintain control of it. Don't give control up. Number 2, that attitude of gratitude. Make a daily list of 3 things that you're thankful for. Hang with positive people. Know your anchors. Let them go if you can't control them. Let go of worrisome thoughts. Don't forget to write down, why am I worrying about that? What really could go wrong? Develop a can-do attitude. Be out front. So that's our A. A is for attitude. And B is for better focus. I know you don't want to hear this from an old guy sitting here talking about multitasking. In a world where you were raised to multitask, right? But actually you were wired to be multi-connected. Our brains actually won't let us multitask. And that's one of the important things to remember. That's why you can't text and drive. Or if you give somebody a task on each side of you and you give one of them multiple tasks, the one that has the single task is going to perform much, much better. Today, the multitasking frenzy is causing many of us missing the opportunity to be outstanding, because it takes a little self-discipline to be focused. And study after study has shown that when we're constantly interrupted, it takes 500% longer to take care of that task, whether studying for an exam. If you do that with interruptions, it's going to take 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 times longer for you to really understand that material and excel. So that is a big deal. So I want you to think a minute, and this is another polling question. When you're needing focused time, what's your biggest interruption? What's your biggest interruption, your most frequent interruption when you really do need to be focused? Phone, social media, children, my best friend, that positive friend or that negative friend. Phone, email, people interrupting. Things to do, my to-do list, money, social media. A recent work by the University of California, Irvine showed, on average, 44% of the time that we're interrupted, we interrupt ourselves. 44% of the time, we're not disciplined enough to put that phone on silent. We're not disciplined enough not to answer that phone, not to answer the door, to really put ourselves in a place where we can focus. That's a big percentage. There's also been a study of students. This was, trying to remember which university, but anyway, it was 54 students who had an outline, an essay to write, and it was on defined subjects. And so in condition 1, they were interrupted during the time for the outline. In condition 2, they were interrupted during writing the essay. So condition 1, just when they were doing the outline. In condition 2, during the entire time they were writing the essay. In condition 3, the students were not interrupted. Now, what do you think that study showed? Absolutely, under condition 3, where the students didn't have their phones, where they didn't have interruptions, the essays were better, longer, and more correct. And then in condition 1, where it was just under the outline, they did a little bit better than under condition 2, where they were interrupted the entire time. So always remember that multitasking is not possible. It always distracts from one task or the other. In fact, another international study came out and showed that multitasking lowers your IQ by 10 points, whereas smoking a joint only lowers it by 5 points. So think about that as you're studying for that next exam, how important it is that you control your self-interruption. So that's tip number 1 for better focus. Now, this morning, I'm going to bet there's some people with us today that love to say yes. You're just a yes person. When somebody asks you to do something, you say yes, and you already know your plate is full. And tip number 2 is to learn the power of saying no. Do you have a hard time telling people no? Do you find yourself stretched because you can't say no? That is a very powerful self-discipline, to be able to say no. And it's just a matter of explaining to people why you have to say no. But it's very powerful, and it's part of managing ourselves. So let's see how well we know ourselves. This is another reflection moment. I would like, this is the polling question, what 2-hour slot in the day, 24-hour day, try to use even hours, what 2-hour slot is your high energy time? We have an 8 to 10, 1 to 3, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. That's an early person. 8 to 10, 9 to 11, 10 to 12, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., late night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We all have different times. We're wired a little bit differently. So that's your high energy time. So my tip for you, tip number 3 is schedule your highest priority during your high energy time. That's when you want to make sure that you limit your interruptions. That's when you want to limit your self-interruptions. A lot of times when we're high energy, that's when we get involved in a lot of different things, and it distracts from the most important thing that we have to do. Remember the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do is going to deliver 80% of the results. So when you think about that to-do list, there's 1 or 2 items on there that are going to make a big difference in your life. They're going to make a big difference in your career. And when you're working in the workplace, there's going to be a couple of things that are going to determine whether you're viewed as outstanding or average, because you have to know the difference. The 80-20 rule always works. 80% of the traffic jams happen on 20% of the roads. 80% of your text messages come from 20% of your friends or your parents. 80% of the beer consumed in America is consumed by 20% of the beer drinkers. So think about that a moment. 20% of your priorities will deliver 80% of your results. So it's important that we know what those priorities are and that we schedule them during our high energy time. Which brings me to tip number 4. If you treat everything as important, then nothing is important. If you treat everything as important, if everything is urgent, how does your day feel? How do you feel at the end of the day? So really, we have to understand what's really important. What do I have to get done today? What is my biggest task at work today? So don't fall into that trap. So I've met many, many students and even people in the workplace over my years that said, you know, I'm at my best. I'm at my absolute best when I'm right there on the deadline. And the truth of the matter is that person's saying, I don't have enough discipline to create that focus time so I can reach my full potential, so I can be at my best. So it's best that you get away from that old habit and you start to schedule those highest priorities during the time when you have your highest energy. Tip number 5 is focus some time on your health. Even if it's a casual walk, a mediation time, meditate a little bit, all of this helps build energy. It helps generate focus, and it helps us intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. So never forget the power of that. And the next thing is tip number 6, is we all have that big task, and we even write it at the top of the to-do list, but we never start, right? Why do we never start? It's because we have to break it down into manageable parts so that our mind will allow us to take that first step. It's very important that if you've got a big project and you can't seem to get started, that you break it down into little bitty pieces. And I promise you, if you do that and then just do step 1, you will start to take care of that big project. That big paper, that big essay that's due at the end of that master's or that doctorate, that's all about doing that, laying it out, outlining it, doing it a step at a time. The same thing in the workplace. As you get that first big project, you'll sit there and you'll just get scared. The key is break it down one step at a time and build on that progress and move forward on your biggest project. So the 6 tips for better focus are: control your self-interruptions, learn the power of no. It's okay to say no. Create focus during your high energy times. Focus on that top 20%. Know what's the most important. Spend some time on your health and break your big goals down into small steps. The other thing that I encourage people to think about is when you can feel it. I'm mad at myself because I'm not focusing like I need to. I've got to get ready for this exam. Remember your why. Why is that important? I do want to be outstanding. I do want to be at the top of the class. That why is so important. So A is for attitude, B is for better focus, and C is for constant learning. And I can hear the boos because you are so ready to get out of school and stop learning. And you can't do that. Not today. In fact, seniority is out the window, which is a great news, right? Wisdom and experience are not out the window, so the first thing you want to do is saddle up to that baby boomer or that Gen X, that older person that has some of that wisdom and experience. But today, when you graduate, if you stop learning, people will pass you by. In 3 years, your skill set will be no good. It'll be obsolete in less than 3 years. So you have to keep learning today. So constant learning is very important. So tip number 1 is embrace growing yourself daily. It's the best investment you'll ever make. One of my sayings I love to say is the more you learn, the more you'll earn. So those of you that are worried about money, think about how you grow your knowledge. Invest in yourself. It's the best investment. Tip number 2, don't be scared of making a mistake. Go for it. There is no dumb question when you start that new job. Go for it. It's not a dumb question in class. If you don't understand that concept, step out there and go for it. I think about Ashley McAdams, who was in our partner development program. She's a new young partner in our firm today. She had not had many leadership opportunities. She stepped out there and said, yes, I'll chair the what we call the personnel committee. We were dealing with how do we do a better job with feedback and things like that. She called me and we talked back and forth. She had a lot of anxiety around that. What if I lead us down the wrong path? But she shook all of that off and she said, you know what, I'm not going to be scared of making a mistake. And she got us involved in our feedback movement and the way we do feedback, and has really helped change the culture of our firm. And now we're working on more continuous feedback. And that was all because Ashley stepped away from her comfort zone and said, hey, I'm not going to be scared of making a mistake. And that's extremely important for you today. is that you step away from your comfort zone. If you're not feeling a little bit of anxiety, you're not growing. That comfort zone will pull you in there and it'll say, hey, everything is fine. You can't be outstanding if you're living in your comfort zone. So let me ask you a question here. It's another polling question. How much reading do you do outside of your assigned reading at school or at work? How much reading are you doing to develop new knowledge, new skills, just personal leadership, personal development? How many minutes a day are you spending on that? 20, 45, 20, 0, 60, 30, none, 60, 30. So we have a lot of people, a lot of nones, and that is normal. The average person does not spend time on that. But tip number 3 will tell you how important that is. 15 minutes a day. All right, who wasted 15 minutes this weekend? Yesterday. I've probably wasted 15 minutes today. We all waste 15 minutes. 15 minutes a day, reading 15 minutes a day for personal knowledge. If you do that on a single subject in 3 years, you will be as knowledgeable as anybody on that subject as 98% of the people, more knowledgeable than 98% of the people in the country. You'll be an expert. 15 minutes a day, every day for 3 years. That's what it takes, 15 minutes a day to not be average. It's a matter of habit. And tip number 4 is be curious. You ever been around a 4-year-old? I've got grandkids. And if you get around a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, they are going to ask you a ton of questions. It's nonstop. And that's what I would encourage you to do, is be curious. Why? Why do we do it that way? What if we did this? Questions, questions, questions. Be curious, because it will help you reach your full potential. So those 4 tips for constant learning. Embrace growing yourself daily. Go for it. Learn from mistakes. Read 15 minutes a day for knowledge, and use your curiosity to make yourself better. So the ABCs to outstanding. A is attitude. Don't give control away. Remember those 6 tips. Don't forget about gratitude, because it's a big deal. B is for better focus. That's managing yourself. Just some self-discipline. Think about what John Maxwell said. And C is constant learning. Continuing to invest in ourselves. We are on the verge of a transformation in our world. The way we work and live is going to change more than it ever has in humankind in time. It is a time when we have to learn and constantly learn, because what we do and how we do it is changing so fast. And I'm going to let Jeff take the questions, and we're going to interact on those in just a minute. But in closing, in the presentation, I'm going to encourage you not to settle. It's easy to settle. If you think about these tips, if you apply ABCs to outstanding, attitude, better focus, constant learning, small, easy things done on a daily basis, you can move from average and typical to outstanding and excellent. Remember the words of Bonnie St. John. Don't settle for a normal life. Remember the words of John O'Leary. Live an inspired life. That's all within our ability to do that. And in closing, Ralph Waldo Emerson tells us something that's very important. This is exactly what we've been talking about today. The only person you are destined to become is a person you decide to be. And so my question for you today is, who are you going to decide to be? Are you going to decide to be outstanding? Because these easy daily habits will make a difference in your career. It'll make a difference for you in college right now today. I have students that email me, call me, text me, how this presentation, how applying some of these tips changed their study habits, raised their grades, empowered them to have more free time. So thank you for the privilege of talking about the ABCs to outstanding this morning. And I look forward to talking with Jeff on some of your questions.
Joey, thank you. And Joey, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I hear you fine. Thank you.
Joey, I personally have 3 pages of notes, so I can only imagine how everybody else is. Joey, we didn't talk a lot about accounting this morning, did we? I mean, I say that to make a point. You are coaching the audience, students primarily, who are thinking about their career and getting a job, and you're giving them a foundation on how to be effective as a student, but also in their career. But I think it's worth noting, we're not talking about accounting skills today, are we?
No, we're not. And I will tell you, the people we interview, the interns we have, they're all plenty smart. They're plenty smart. The ones that separate themselves are the ones that do some of the things that we're talking about today. And Jeff, I can tell you over years and years of experience and watching people in their careers, it's those that understand how to stand out and how to achieve their full potential are the ones that drive the bus. I mean, it's just the way it is. And it's not about that technical knowledge is important, but it just gets you in the game. And then how are you going to apply that knowledge?
Yeah, if you look at the first few years of your career as so critical to what's going to happen later down the road, and are you teeing yourself up to become a partner? Are you teeing yourself up to become a CFO outside of public accounting? By working habits like this, Joey, into your life now as a student or now when you're beginning your career, it will have a profound impact over the years, right? I mean, and I imagine you see that through people at HORNE and yourself and people that you coach outside of HORNE. Is that right?
Oh, yes. First, it's never too late to start, okay? I mean, that's important because it has a phenomenal impact immediately because we don't manage ourselves. But if you want to fast start your career or if you want to end your college on a high note, you just start applying these tips and managing yourself. As John Maxwell says, hold yourself accountable. I was at a meeting he was at earlier this year, and John said it in such great terms. I want you to think about this. He said, most people have uphill goals and downhill habits. And that's what an average person has. They have downhill habits. We all have these uphill goals. These daily habits will take you uphill. It's little bitty differences. It's not working harder. And in fact, I found in my personal career and those others that apply these kind of tips, you actually have way more free time. It has empowered me my entire career because I have been willing to have self-discipline at the right times.
Joey, a couple of questions that have come through, and a few of them pertain to like practical applications of what you're talking about. And one of them was about multitasking. That got a lot of reaction, and how 44% of our interruptions are self-interruptions. So the rest of them obviously are other people. I know you, besides being a CPA and being and a leader in this, and you're the leader of the HORNE accounting firm and a top 50 U.S. firm, you also write. You are a prolific, I think we can use the word prolific blogger. But how do you manage self-interruptions, and also how do you manage interruptions, external interruptions, so that you can get these things done that are not easy, like writing? Can you just talk about how you work and tell that story?
Let me say this, each individual has to figure out how they're wired and how they work. So when I share this with you, it's just what works for me. And my high energy time is early in the morning. So at 5:30 this morning, I was doing my gratitude time, my meditation time, my quiet time. That's also those first 2 hours of the day is when I write most of my writing because my mind is clearer then. I have less interruptions then. But you know what grabs all of us is what happens after the 8 o'clock bell rings, and the phone starts ringing, and the email starts coming in, and all of that. And there's many things that help you manage that. I'm gonna give you a few today that I use. One is I don't have notifications on my phone. It doesn't notify me every time I get a text message. It doesn't notify me every time I get an email. On my computer at work, I don't get notified. I've informed all of my clients. I informed all of my team members. Email is not urgent. If you've got something urgent, you need to call me or text me. And then I'll know that something's in my email box that's urgent, because I manage email in blocks of time. I'll do that in a 30-minute period where I'll do all of my email. And I touch every one of them and trash it, read it, put it in a file for later or whatever. But I manage that email inbox. Same thing with my text messages and things like that. I understand, and I'm on social media a lot. I tweeted John O'Leary's thought this morning about there's something always beautiful out there. I've got two fantasy football teams. The one I'm having the most fun with is with my grandson, who's 10 years old. This is his first team. He's on WhatsApp. He doesn't have a phone, so he's chatting with me and calling me on WhatsApp. So I understand all of those things, and I'm still able to enjoy those, but also create that focus time. So it's really understanding, just like this morning, being prepared for today's presentation. I spent an hour, no phone, nobody, making sure that I was ready to deliver for everybody today on the ABCs to outstanding.
Joey, one of the questions that's been voted up, I'm just going to read it to you and give you time to think about it. It's from one of our attendees who says that I'm in the crossroads of my career. I'm struggling with staying with my current employer because of the financial stability it offers. However, I don't want to settle, but my fear of going back into the private sector stops me from moving forward. What advice do you have for me?
So they're in public accounting now. Is that the way you read that, Jeff?
I am reading it like she says I think it's I don't know. I'm just saying she says however, I don't want to settle, but my fear of going back into the private sector stops me from moving forward. My assumption is that this person is in public and would like to go back to private, right, is afraid because this person is doing very well financially at their current job. So this is somebody who's out of school. I'm just curious how you would advise that person. That was
okay. So I'm going to take a stab at this, and not knowing the personal situations around all of that. And first, let me say, there are great opportunities in public and private. Certainly, my love is in public accounting. I think it really challenges you to your full potential over your career. But the opportunities are everywhere. It's about how you manage yourself. So I was talking to one of our female managers the other day, and she was in a similar situation, and she wanted to talk with me about that because she was really feeling a little burnout. And so we really stopped and thought, and what I had her do is really reflect on what she wanted out of her career, what was really important to her, because she was not spending enough time thinking about who she wanted to be and what she wanted to achieve. And so once she did that, and then we began to reflect on the fact that she was not using the power of no. She was saying yes to everything when people said, hey, I need you to do this, I need you for this, I need you on this project. She had not learned the power of no, that it's okay, and you'll find that in your career, especially if you're outstanding. Everybody's going to want you on their team, right? Everybody's going to say, hey, Jeff, I need you. Please, can you help me with this one? Can you help me with that one? And so what happens is stars will get overworked and burn out because they haven't learned the power of no. So that's a very important one, and might be a key for this person, as they sound like they might be touching on a little burnout. I believe they can progress in a much more controlled way and integrate their personal and career.
I would agree, and I would add to that, to your principle earlier, don't settle. And it sounds like this person's also worrying about some fears of what's ahead, of the unknown. And if you could take away anything from this presentation, it's that, what was it, 8% of the things that we worry about ever happen. And so a year from now, if you were to take a risk on going back into private, if that's what you wanted to do, that fear that you have today would not, you wouldn't even remember it. It would be in the rearview mirror. So, Joey, another question that we had was, how do you stay motivated when you've lost your motivation? Actually, that may be tied into the exact same answer you just gave, but I'll let you run with it. How do you stay motivated when you've lost your motivation?
Yeah, we all have up days and down days. I certainly have down days. I always think about, when I get asked that question, a lot about Zig Ziglar, who said that motivation is just like a bath. We take one every day whether we need it or not. And so, I think it starts with the fact that I start every day with gratitude. As John O'Leary said, there's beauty in everything. You just got to look for it. Even during the hard times, the hard days, if I think about the many blessings I have, it's really easy to push through the challenges I have at that time. And that's really at the center of my motivation. But I certainly understand that question. It's one where I go back to my why. Why is this important? Why am I doing this? And a lot of times we, especially young people, and I was certainly guilty of this. I wish I'd done more of this when I was 22, 23, 24, and 25, is really think about, what is my why? I know now that my why, what I get my greatest joy from, is helping people see and reach their full potential. Because people, they really shoot too short too often.
Totally agreed. And I think motivation comes from effort. You have to work your way out of a funk too, right? Yeah, that work creates rhythm, which creates momentum, and it's always it's always helped me. All right, I want to ask you one last question, Joey. Then we're going to let you go. And
okay.
We're getting so much good feedback to this, as you could imagine. So that's why I'm like interrupting myself. Okay. This one's from me, actually, and it's you. We talked about focusing on the top 20% of priorities. You had this great quote that you threw out: "If everything's important, then nothing's important." And so much of our work, whether it's school or career work, is about identifying the vital few, the few things that make the biggest difference, that get us the results that we want. So, what I really wanted to ask you was just if you had any stories about employees or team members at HORNE, or people that you've coached at HORNE, or ways that you've kind of implemented that at HORNE. I'm curious about how you can lead a team to be focusing on their accounting work in the top 20%, so they're getting the right results. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's certainly a tough question. You did tell me I could skip one question you asked today.
That's fair. That's you can tell there's a selfish motivation though asking the question, but it's just too good not to ask you when I've got you.
Yeah, the story I'll tell, and the reason I'm going to use this is because one, our firm is very focused. We've narrowed our focus. We know where we deliver exceptional value and where we don't. So we don't do everything for everybody. So it's built into the culture that if you go to HORNE, they're going to be focused on certain things. They're not going to do everything for everybody. So from that foundation, right now we're going through our business plans, and we involve most of our team members in our strategies and all of our focus areas. And the things that the focus areas are working on right now, what are the plans that we're using for 2017, and then for our vision, our 2020 vision, how are we going to get there? And one of the things they go through as a team is prioritizing, all right, what are the three most important? What are the game changers? And we really talk about that a lot at HORNE. In our business planning, our team is accustomed to hearing that. Even in our partner evaluations, which I'll be starting in a couple of weeks, we talk about what is a game changer. What's the game changer goal? What's the game changer for your career? What's your game changer for Horn? Being intentional.
When you can ask that question, those questions create focus, and you think about what's going to have the biggest result. The mindset we always try to talk about over here is there's work, and don't confuse your work and the time you're spending working with what the contribution is that you want to make, or the contribution you need to make the team successful. And if you ask that kind of a question, what is the contribution you must make to make the team successful, or are you successful in your role, you'll have the right answers. So
yeah, going back to that why, what's the most important thing? We all get a bunch of tasks. It's easy to get busy today. That's why I like some of the slides I use on the frenzy, the multitasking frenzy, because we feel like that every day. And Mondays especially, right?
Right. It's good on this Monday to slow down for a minute and be reminded of the important stuff. And Joey, I've sent out your Twitter handle, your LinkedIn handle, your blog address through the to the panel, and I ask everyone who's on this call, be sure to follow Joey on Twitter, connect with Horne's blog. It is if you thought this was good, imagine getting this kind of content from Joey repeatedly. That's what's going on at their Be Better blog, and as well as check out his LinkedIn as well. And to that end, Joey, the team at Accountingfly, I just want to thank you for putting the time in to put this presentation together. Cassie and Katie on your team, we appreciate all the work that you guys did, especially on a Monday to pull this together. But you know what? I felt like this was the right way to kick off this very important event, and we were right. So Joey, just thank you from all of the team over here. Great job. Thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and just always remember, we're going to be the person we decide to be. Thank you.
As we wrap up, I just want to give a couple of reminders that we're going to do the webinars every day this week at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you understand that is at Eastern and not Central. We saw a few people log in here at the last 2 or 3 minutes of the presentation. I would love your feedback on what you learned today, and I'd welcome you to email me at jeff@accountingfly.com. We'd just like to hear your story. If you thought this was helpful, why was it helpful? Just send me a quick email and just tell me before you wrap up. There's a quick survey as you close up the webinar as well that we can ask about what kind of topics you'd like to hear. Every day this week, great presentations. Tomorrow we're going to hear from Matt Banks, the controller of Facebook, and he's going to tell you his story, how he started out in the Big Four and made his way to become the controller of Facebook. And don't forget about Thursday, the school fair with all these wonderful schools around the country that would love to talk with you about their master's programs. Got to get that education done. Great way to start our week. Thanks for everybody for being here, for logging in. Be by tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern. And Joey, Horne, have a great day in Mississippi. Signing off from Florida. Everybody have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye now.